Darkness enveloped the damp cave, and the sound of terrifying screams echoed through the walls. The goblins were celebrating the death of their leader. One goblin with bloodshot red eyes went mad and declared himself the new leader. However, his comrade disagreed, believing that he had done the most work and should be the leader. Instead, filled with envy and rage, he charged at his comrade, biting into the other's nose. The cave was now filled with chaos. Screams rang out more violently. Other goblins gathered around, watching the battle with amusement and betting on who would win. It was their favorite pastime. Chaos brought endless joy to these simple souls. However, amidst the excitement, they discussed bringing the prey out to satisfy their desires. Because the old leader had hidden a human girl and had not touched her yet, they started whispering to each other, plotting to find and take her for themselves. Some goblins hesitated because the prey was protected by a different goblin. He was unlike the other goblins. While other goblins wore simple clothes to cover their private parts, he had covered himself with tattered clothes that covered almost his entire body, and his appearance was terrifying not only because of his clothes, but also because of the aura he exuded like a human being. And when the leader died, they believed that this different one would keep the prey for himself. They stared at the strange goblin. They would follow him and snatch the girl when they had the chance. Some smarter goblins, they suggested waiting a little longer because their strongest members had gone ahead to find the prey. They were planning to let the strange goblin fight those guys, then take advantage of the chaos to kill him and finally take the prey for themselves. However, they didn't expect the strange goblin to be able to hear their conversation. Knowing that the girl was in danger, the strange goblin decided to run back to where she was being held captive. With his speed, he easily lost the other goblins. When he arrived at the location, he was horrified to find the rebellious goblins ready to violate the girl. The girl begged for help, her eyes wide with fear. He spoke to them, telling them to release the girl. The leading goblin and refused this request. The leader was dead. He felt like he was the strongest goblin in the group, and this prey was his. The strange goblin didn't care about that. He was determined to protect this girl. Seeing this, the big goblin and his henchmen decided to attack and kill the strange goblin. Outnumbered, the strange goblin was quickly subdued, but he didn't give up. He didn't believe that these low-level goblins could defeat him, and more importantly, he didn't want to die here. Seizing the opportunity, he used his weapon to kill the biggest goblin, causing the others to fear. Never before had a goblin used a sharp weapon and attacked like a human being. The strange goblin pointed his weapon at the rest. His words were emotionless: leave or die. These words and the image of the giant being killed quickly frightened them. The remaining goblins fled, not forgetting to shout threats they would return with reinforcements to take him down when the other goblins left. But the strange goblin still wasn't letting his guard down. Trying to regain his composure, he knew that this was just the beginning of the hellish days to come when he decided to fight against his own kind. This girl's name was 𝗖𝗆𝗆. She supported him and thanked him for saving her once again. She could tell that he was different from the other goblins. He had never harmed her. She hoped he wouldn't die. It is true that a goblin would never protect a human, but there was a deeper reason for the strange goblin's actions. You guessed it, right? He was a human. A few days ago, Lamp died in a terrible accident. He didn't expect that instead of meeting God after being hit by a truck, he was transferred to another world with a system. However, his system wasn't fully activated yet. Besides being able to see some stats, it didn't seem to have any other functions, and it seemed quite useless. But since meeting 𝗖𝗆𝗆, she told him about the role of those stats in this world. This world was ruled by gods, with many powerful monsters, and humans had demonstrated their role on this continent through absolute power. Unfortunately, the goblin he was reborn as was the weakest and dirtiest monster in this world, and his stats were extremely low, so he would be easily killed by his own kind. Currently, he was level 5 HP, 20 strength, 5 defense, 5. And these stats gave him an overall strength of 30. Luckily, his name didn't change. He was still Lamine. However, there was still a way for him to become stronger here, and that was through mating with girls. In this harsh reality, goblins were capable of becoming stronger through constant mating and procreation. However, they do not have a female gender, so they could only mate with other female creatures. That's why goblins constantly plundered and kidnapped women. Lamp, a former human, found doing so completely against his morals, but to survive he had to be stronger. This issue always worried him. Seeing Lamb's worry, the girl told him not to think too much. After spending days with him, she knew that he was completely different from the other goblins and really didn't want to live with them. With a hopeful smile, she promised that when the knights came to rescue her, she would tell them about how he saved her, because the knights were always fair and just. They would surely agree to let him live in her village. Her optimism gave Lamb the hope. He believed what she said. He was full of hope even if the system couldn't activate immediately, as long as he persevered until the humans came to rescue them and gained the protection of humans, he could survive. Then he could slowly figure out a way to fully activate the system. However, things weren't as easy as Lamb had hoped to scream a sign of the goblins returning to them. Without hesitation, he ordered 𝗧𝗃𝗃 to hide, and she obeyed. Immediately, the first goblin appeared. It charged wildly at Lamb, screaming that humans had appeared and that it wanted Tote with the girl to become stronger because it knew that once it became stronger, it wouldn't be killed. The goblin ran frantically looking for 𝗧𝗃𝗃. However, its haste made it an easy target for 𝗧𝗏, who quickly killed the unfortunate goblin. 𝗧𝗃𝗃 quickly informed 𝗧𝗃𝗃 that humans were here to save her. 𝗧𝗃𝗃's face lit up with joy. She assumed it was a knight. She said she would go out to check. Lamp looked at her with concern. The appearance of a knight meant 𝗧𝗃𝗃 would be saved, and perhaps an opportunity for him to prove his worth. But his excitement was stifled when he saw a knight easily killing the other goblins with his strength. The knight wasn't putting in much effort to deal with the goblins. This human seemed to be venting his anger, clearly complaining that these filthy creatures had ripped his clothes. Seeing the human stats, Lamp was incredibly surprised. His name was Loader, level 25 with strength 30 and defense 50, equipped with platinum armor and an iron sword with a total power of 400. This was the highest stat Lamp had seen since coming to this world, making him question if Lower was actually human. While Lamp stood in place, amazed at how easily the human dealt with the goblins, 𝗧𝗃𝗃 excitedly approached, addressing Lower, delighted to see him. However, Lamp quickly noticed that Lower was raising his sword to attack 𝗧𝗃𝗃. With quick reflexes, he pushed her away from the attack, just in time despite saving 𝗧𝗃𝗃 from death. The sudden attack baffled Lamb. The Holy Knights were supposed to be here to save people. Why were they attacking 𝗧𝗃𝗃? He assumed that because the cave was quite dark, he had mistaken the girl for a goblin. But that didn't seem to be the case, as Lower angrily expressed his disdain for a goblin. Having dodged his attack, 𝗧𝗃𝗃 quickly tried to explain she was a human, but Lur told her to be silent because he knew who she was. However, he believed she had been defiled by the goblins and might even be pregnant with their child. It was laughable to him that someone as filthy as her would expect mercy from him. It would be better for her if she repented her sins and paid for them with death. 𝗧𝗃𝗃 begged him, insisting that even though she was captured, she hadn't been defiled by the goblins. Then she pointed to Lamp, explaining that he was the one who had protected her, but unfortunately Lower didn't believe a word she said. The idea that a goblin had saved her and wasn't a human enemy was beyond the bounds of a believable story. He raised his sword to end her. Lamb couldn't believe what he was seeing. He didn't expect things to end so quickly. With no other choice, Lamp stepped forward without hesitation, pushing 𝗧𝗃𝗃 aside and facing Lower. He hoped there would be enough time for 𝗧𝗃𝗃 to escape. Lamp grabbed his crude weapon and lunged at Lower. This was an outcome he hadn't expected, but even if he had to sacrifice himself, he wanted to protect the girl. This could be the act that would prove he was once human. But before the collision, an AA enveloped Lamb, leaving both him and Lower astonished. This magic came from a woman dressed in white. Her aura exuded holiness and solemnity. She demanded Lower stop because she felt this goblin was strange. This woman was none other than the 𝗧𝗃𝗃. Seizing the opportunity, 𝗧𝗃𝗃 crawled over and begged her to save them. 𝗃𝗃 helped 𝗧𝗃𝗃 to her feet and presented her to Lower, who had tried to kill her just minutes ago. Then EP turned her attention to Lambda and asked if he could understand what she was saying. Lamp was trapped within the barrier. According to what 𝗧𝗃𝗃 had told him, 𝗃𝗃 was the saint and the spokesperson for the divine temple. She could be his only hope of leaving this place alive. Lambda quickly responded that he could understand. He took a deep breath and kept saying he wasn't a monster of this world, and he used to be human, but he became this way due to an accident. He could explain everything if she took him a long while. Lur thought this goblin was just a bit smarter than the others. 𝗃𝗃 smiled. Goblins are usually stupid and lowly creatures. They can't think or speak fluently, but this goblin can speak, and this might be a blessing from the Holy Mother. The holy woman 𝗃𝗃 turned to 𝗧𝗃𝗃 and asked her to confirm if this goblin really didn't hurt her. 𝗧𝗃𝗃 happily confirmed that Lamb not only didn't hurt her, but he protected her from other goblins and gave her food. This pleased 𝗃𝗃. She realized the strangeness of the goblin. She decided to take it back to the temple and study it thoroughly before making any decision. Hearing this, 𝗧𝗃𝗃 was very happy because she fulfilled her promise to the goblin. EPF then turned to Lambda and asked if he was willing to go with him. Hearing this, Lambda was very happy. He immediately replied that he was willing. Finally, everything seemed to be getting better for Lamp because he was with someone who could listen and understand reason. With a snap of her Fingers 𝗖𝗍𝗆 broke the barrier that imprisoned Lamb. Then she ordered everyone to prepare to leave. Lamb felt a sense of safety about his future, which he was incredibly grateful for, so he immediately approached Effort to express his gratitude, promising that he would repay her. But as he looked closer at her face, he noticed a cruel smile that took him by surprise. The next thing he heard was a sound he was all too familiar. With the sound of metal piercing flesh, he knew what was happening. But he turned back in fear. The fear was immediately confirmed. 𝗧𝗴𝘆𝗀 was killed. The lifeless body lay motionless on the cold ground. Lamb was stunned, unable to move. The shock was too great. Just as he thought things were getting better, it turned out to be a cruel lie. At this moment, the voice of the woman he thought was the savior rang out along with the cruel laughter. She mocked his naivety and said that his willingly following her was the best way to repay her, and Lamb understood the cruel reality of this world. A week has passed in the village. The bell tolls, summoning every to the town square. As they gather, Lower addresses the assembled villagers, announcing the devastating goblin attack on Bright Town. This incites fury among the villagers. They demand blood for blood, seeing humans and goblins as sworn enemies, exactly the reaction Lower had hoped for. After whipping up their hatred, Lower begins to praise the temple. The knights, he explains, acting on the temple's behalf, have slain these goblins and avenged the villagers. Then the holy maiden 𝗧𝗴𝘀𝗆 steps forward with her powers. She creates a dazzling spectacle, urging the villagers to continue praying to the temple. She assures them that the temple will always protect its faithful. Her words instantly sway the villagers. Even those previously skeptical, their faith is reignited, and they turn to the temple with devotion and trust. Later, 𝗧𝗴𝘀𝗆 returns to her chambers, basking in the success of her speech. It's nothing new. These villagers are the most gullible fools imaginable. They'll pray even harder, worship the temple more fervently, and bring her more offerings. Her smug satisfaction is abruptly interrupted by a voice calling her name. The person who called her name was the goblin Lamb. He has regained consciousness, and it's clear he's been through hell. Horrifying scars cover his body, and one eye has been gouged out. Despite his injuries, a burning rage burns in his eye. 𝗧𝗴𝘀𝗆 ignores his words. A twisted smile plays on her lips. She's amazed by his tenacious spirit. It's been a long time since she'd seen such tenacious life. Perhaps this is why the temple hasn't been able to eradicate all goblins from the continent. Lamb's return to consciousness excites 𝗧𝗴𝘀𝗆. She can't continue her experiments, observing how the poison affects him. Lamb, enraged, repeats his accusations. You tricked me. You killed 𝗧𝗴𝘀𝗆. Is this the true face of your temple, this so-called justice humans boast about? His fury is met with cruel indifference. She silences him with a sharp thrust of a staff against his mouth. She laughs, mocking his anger. How dare a weak, filthy creature like you, a degenerate goblin, speak of human justice? She claims 𝗧𝗴𝘀𝗆 was under a spell and dared to speak for him. A betrayal, therefore death was her final act of loyalty. Goblins are nothing more than insects on this continent. She continues, it's a great honor that the holy maiden even speaks to you. Be grateful and use your wretched little body to serve mankind in the temple's experiments. The brutal torture continues. Lamb, the helpless to residential, resist the endless, unbearable pain. Even when he falls unconscious, he's quickly awakened by the torment in his torture. He wonders if he'll die here. He doesn't want to, but he can't blame anyone but himself. He was so foolish. Reborn as a lowly goblin, he had naively believed in humans and the kindness of those not of his kind. His weakness and naivety led to 𝗧𝗏𝘆𝗆's death after he was captured by the villagers. Lower and 𝗧𝗴𝘀𝗆 tortured and tormented him with every imaginable cruelty. They never believed his word. 𝗏𝗆 taking sick pleasure in his suffering lines. Suffering eventually comes to an end. He's tortured to death by the cruel woman. His only wish in his final moments, if he had another chance, was to never trust humans again. If he could do it again, he'd crush their bones and drink their blood. But that was only if he could be reborn. As his consciousness fades, instead of drifting into an endless void, Lamp awakens in a different space, a place filled with brilliant white light and twinkling stars. His body is fully healed. Before he can ask where he is, a system window appears. It informs him that the goblin life simulation system has been activated, and he has died. A brief summary of his life flashes before him. Due to your naivety, you forgot you were a goblin. Humans will never trust goblins. You died from torture and abuse. This pain will be engraved in your mind, and you will never forget. As a result, you the most tragic character in the rebirth system. Do you want to start again? Yes or no? Lamp is startled. His system only activated when he died, and this system might allow him to be reborn, but will he be reborn as a low-level goblin this time? The system reminds him, if you choose no, your soul will Completely dissipate. If you choose yes, you will be reborn into a goblin body 1 week earlier. This made him incredibly excited. A week ago, this was his chance for revenge. He had to get revenge on Lower and Effer. Of course, he chose to be reborn again. A white light enveloped his body and the start of his goblin to zero life lamp's eyes were now filled with rage. This rebirth was slightly different because this was his goblin to zero life to help him live longer. The system decided to give him a little more power. Feeling his strength, Lamb the smiled with satisfaction. Even if it was just a little, coming back to life was the most important thing. But it seemed this was his only chance, because the system immediately warned him of danger. People from the temple were coming, and if he died again, he wouldn't be reborn. This shocked him, but he didn't expect more. Being reborn once was already a miracle. He wasn't strong enough to fight the temple yet, so he immediately asked the system what he could do. The system explained that it was called the Goblin Life Simulation System. It could simulate his life and predict future events. Each different choice would lead to different outcomes. Each simulation required 24 hours to complete. After the simulation, he would earn points from each simulation, which he could use to exchange for items in the system. This made Lamp Theme chuckle. This simulation method meant he could see the future, so he immediately started using the simulation. The system reminder displayed the current situation: escape the goblin cave. To escape, he had to make choices: 1. Warn his goblin friends and unite to face the humans. The reward would be 10 points. 2. Abandon the other goblins and escape on his own. The reward would be 5 points. 3. Hide in the cave and pray the temple people don't find him. The reward would be 0 points. Lamb thought about it. Even though there were 3 options, he was sure that even if all the goblins in the cave united, they couldn't defeat Loader. The battle would end with their deaths, and he wouldn't be able to escape, but he still chose to simulate the first option. He hoped that with the points he earned, he could exchange for a weapon from the shop. Then he could kill Loader with a sneak attack. As predicted, after the simulation, all the goblins were killed. The result was a complete failure. The system asked him to think carefully when making decisions, and also gave him 10 points. Lanth was happy that he got the points. Even though his plan failed, he quickly opened the system shop. Many weapons appeared immediately, and he could exchange for them, but the problem was that his points were too low. The only thing he could exchange for was a short knife. It could increase his movement speed by 10% and his strength by 15 points. He grabbed the knife. Those stats were immediately added to his information panel. At this point, Lambda remembered 𝗧𝗴𝘆𝗶𝗵𝗵. He asked why he didn't see her. The system informed him that due to his rebirth, some events in this world had changed. 𝗧𝗴𝘆𝗶𝗵𝗵 wasn't captured by the goblins. She was living happily with her family in the village. Knowing this made Lambda very happy. A smile appeared on his face. He felt he had fulfilled his promise to bring her home. Now he had no worries on his path to revenge. The thing to do now was to escape and survive. He chose a narrow exit to go out. This place was small, so there would definitely be fewer guards. There were only 2 guards outside. They were discussing their work. These goblins were very weak, so they could easily complete their task. Lambda heard their conversation. He carefully advanced to the entrance of the cave. The 2 guards talked to each other. Since this passage was small, any goblin that ran out would be easy to kill. Lower had asked them to kill any girl who ran out and not let them return to the village. This conversation confirmed Lamb's belief that everyone in the temple was a bunch of bastards who were willing to kill their own people. Therefore, a goblin like him had no reason to be merciful to them. Lambda pinched his nose, trying his best to imitate a woman's voice of distress, and pleaded for help. The guards immediately paid attention to it. They wanted to kill the girl and receive a reward from Loader. One of them entered the cave with a knife behind his back. He told the girl not to be afraid. He was a temple man, and he was here to take everyone home, but instead of a woman, it was Lamp with a sharp knife pointed at the knife. At the exit, the knight noticed the strange behavior of his comrade and decided to check on him. As he approached, he was shocked to see a goblin standing there. In a flash, Lamp threw the knight's body away, then charged toward the terrified knight at incredible speed. His agility allowed him to easily wound the knight, who fell to the ground in pain. The knight, overcome with fear, screamed, "You can speak human." Lamb's sharp steel blade was the only answer to the knight's fear. Knowing he was no match for Lamb's power, the knight realized he was facing death. In desperation, he begged for mercy. He knelt, pleading for compassion, and showed Lamb a picture of his family, hoping for a chance to return to them. He praised Lamb's intelligence, claiming he would understand that he was merely following the orders of the temple. He insisted that he was forced into doing what he did. The knight offered Lamb a bag of gold and a beautiful woman, promising to select the most alluring one for him. However, for a man like Lambda, who had been betrayed, these words only fueled his anger. The knight's true nature was exposed. He had planned to use Lamb's hesitation to kill him, but it was all part of Lamb's plan. He swiftly and coldly ended the knight's life. Lambda felt pity for the man's family But he understood that sometimes ruthlessness was necessary. Evil needed to be eradicated, especially now that he was no longer human. His attention was drawn to a voice coming from the forest. It was Lower, and his men heading towards them. Lamb quickly took off the knight's clothes and left in a hurry, promising to find Lower and ear soon. Later, Lur and Ephra arrived at the scene. They were stunned to find the bodies of the two temple knights. After examining the bodies, Lur suspected the goblin ambush. The clean, swift cuts were unusual. Ephra thought it was impossible for a regular goblin to kill both knights. She believed a goblin capable of such a feat must be a mutated one. Lower agreed with her assessment. He was furious that the knights could not handle a mutated goblin, and allowing it to escape was a bad sign. Loder, furious, kicked one of the corpses and raged that these knights couldn't handle a mutated goblin. Ephra, her lips licking, couldn't control her excitement and cruelty at the thought of obtaining such a unique specimen for experimentation. Night fell, and the moonlight cast an eerie glow on the forest. Lamb panted heavily, happy to be alive. He had run until exhaustion, but he couldn't afford to let his guard down. He tried to recover as quickly as possible to continue his journey. He realized that they hated goblins, so much so he would use the goblin way to deal with them. Goblins could upgrade their attributes through mating and cannibalism, both increasing strength and creating stronger generations. Lamb's mind was consumed with hatred in this life. He wanted all men to experience only the happiness of death and all women to kneel and weep at his feet, especially Lur and Ephra. But his thoughts were interrupted by the rustling of leaves. He grew worried, thinking it was one of Loder's henchmen still pursuing him. He decided to strike first to gain an advantage. Without hesitation, Lamp stood up and charged at his opponent. The unexpected appearance of Lamp shocked and frightened the stranger, who stumbled backward. Lamp was shocked to find that this was a goblin. The sound it made him think that it could speak. Inertia made Lamp also fall forward. After recovering his posture, Lamp was surprised to find that this goblin had characteristics of a female. Why was a female goblin appearing at this time? According to everyone's knowledge, goblins were only male, reproduced by mating with other creatures. Her presence had changed Lamb this entire perception and confusion. His eyes were fixed on the female goblin. She thought he was about to do something. She quickly sat up and begged him not to hurt her, explaining that she was just fetching water. This only made Lamb more worried. How could this goblin speak complete sentences like him? To find the answer, he used his assessment skill to check her attributes. She was level 3, but her profession was God's messenger. She had the titles of Fallen God, Pure Soul, with attributes Blood 10, Energy 2, Defense 1, with the skills of Devour and Wild Growth. Her overall strength was 10, and Lamp was surprised to see the special note: when a male goblin combines with a female goblin, they will become the legendary Goblin God. This made Lamb to have an unclean thought, because if he made it with her, he would have immense power. As if seeing the dark thoughts in Lamp's eyes, the girl backed away in fear. She said she was caught by the patriarch to fetch water. If she didn't bring the water back, she would be beaten to death by the patriarch. Seeing the girl scared, Lamp spoke up and apologized. He said he didn't mean to scare her. He also patted her shoulder to comfort her, saying that if she cried, it would attract the attention of bad people. But the girl didn't care for Lamb's actions. She was concerned about why Lamp could also speak in a complete way like her. Her eyes lit up with excitement. Lamb laughed and nodded. Because of her cuteness, this was reasonable, because ordinary goblins couldn't speak, and maybe she rarely talked to other people in the tribe. However, Lamp's line of thought was once again interrupted. He noticed the girl was clinging to his cloak. She said Lamb was good because the other goblins just beat her up. This was the first time a goblin treated her like this. The girl suggested that Lamb return to her tribe with her. This surprised Lamb that he didn't expect there to be a goblin tribe nearby. He still didn't know if the Loder people were chasing them. It wasn't suitable to ABC right now, and he needed to find a safe place to hide. Lamp's eyes lit up. This was a good opportunity for him to recruit his first followers. Right after that, he suggested that the girl take him to her tribe. The girl agreed without blushing, it seems, because this was the first time she met a goblin as handsome as this. She immediately agreed to take him to her camp soon. After they arrived at the goblin camp, Lamp's appearance made the other goblins extremely wary because he was a stranger and dressed like a human, something goblins had never seen before. Lamb calmly observed with the number of goblins here. He felt very satisfied and decided to start building his kingdom from here with a calm attitude. He explained to the goblins that he wanted to join them and he wanted to meet their leader, but this proposal was immediately rejected. That he cited that a freak Like Lamb couldn't meet the patriarch, they decided to capture Lamb and then bring him to see the patriarch. At this time, the girl worriedly stepped forward to block the goblins. She said that Lambda was a good person. The commotion had attracted the patriarch's attention. He inquired about the situation. His appearance surprised Lamb Dane a little. The patriarch's name was an old goblin with a staff decorated with many skulls. He looked very ferocious. His appearance was completely different from the goblin's Lamb that had seen before. Besides his clothes, he also had very high stats with level 25 priest profession blood, 102 money, 29 defense, 17 with the skills of Devour, Summon, Thorn, Control equipment, is Skull, Staff, and Bone Chains, and has an overall strength of 200. Lamb's eyes lit up with vigilance. He didn't expect there to be such a strong goblin in this tribe. The goblin leader, after appearing, slowly walked towards Lamine. He looked at the female goblin, asking if she had brought the stranger back to the camp. The girl, filled with worry, confirmed that she had brought Lambda to the camp, explaining that he had nowhere else to go with his terrifying red eyes. The leader praised the girl for doing a good job, but then to her surprise, he ordered other goblins to grab Lamb, intending to kill and eat him. The goblins, excited at the prospect of a meal, jumped up in glee. They pushed the girl aside and pointed their weapons at Lamine. Lamine immediately pulled out his weapon, calming them to stop. He claimed to have the ability to create weapons, and that joining their tribe would make them stronger. The iron knife in his hand immediately caught the leader's attention. He quickly ordered the other goblins to stop and rush towards Lambda. He brought his nose close to Lamb's face, claiming that he smelled deception on him. However, he also wanted to know what kind of weapons Lamine could create using his knowledge of modern technology. Lamb explained that he could make weapons out of iron provided they could find iron, or he promised that with enough time he could create weapons more powerful than the knife. He thought to himself, this goblin shaman could speak very clearly. It seemed the higher the level of the goblin, the more intelligent they were. Seeing the leader hesitation, Lamb emphasized that with iron weapons the tribe would have a chance to win against humans or other monsters. The goblins began to discuss, acknowledging that possessing iron weapons would be incredibly beneficial. They felt that goblins, compared to humans, were weak creatures, but with iron weapons they could move north to snatch girls for mating. Faced with the immense benefits of iron weapons, the leader agreed to give Lamb a chance. He demanded that Lamb find iron ore and create weapons within 3 days, or he would be eaten. Not only him, but the female goblin would be eaten too. Hearing this, the girl became extremely worried. After giving his demands, the leader and the goblin horde left. Comforting the girl, Lamb looked towards the leader with a hint of anger. He 𝗖cie judged the leader as a cruel person willing to kill even members of his own tribe. When enraged, Lamb suppressed his anger, knowing that he couldn't defeat the leader with his current strength. He needed to use this time to create weapons and become stronger. The next day at dawn, Lamb led the goblins in the tribe to search for iron ore. It was now night, and the moonlight made the forest seem frightening. The female goblin Gobu was also with them. She was incredibly exhausted, stating that she couldn't walk anymore. She had been walking all day and was utterly drained. She didn't receive any help from her own kind. Instead, they beat her, calling her ugly and threatening to kill her if she didn't find the iron ore. She kept pleading, but the abuse didn't stop. They wanted to kill her right then and there. For being lazy, unable to bear the sight, Lamb picked up a rock and threw it at the head of one of the goblins. This action caused them to look at him with angry eyes. Line explained that he wanted them to follow and help find the iron or not to fight. He said he would tell them what iron ore looks like, and that if they wanted to live and return, they should go to the valley ahead and bring back some iron, or if they didn't listen, he would kill them right then and there. Lamb took out his knife and glared at the 3 goblins with a terrifying expression. This threat terrified them as they imagined him killing them with the iron weapon. They rushed off to find iron, or not forgetting to threaten Lambda with death if he failed to create weapons. Lamb thought to himself that sooner or later they would kill him. After obtaining iron tools, the task at hand was to become stronger. Looking at Gu's information, the notification about mating with her to become a goblin god caught his eye. Lamine decided it was time to do the things adults do. Seeing Gobu crying, Lamb told her to stop. He sat down beside Gobu and asked her if she wanted to follow him. He promised to protect her, feed her, give her a warm home, and ensure no one would bully her. The girl was confused at these words, asking if he was telling the truth. Looking at the girl sincerely, Lamine affirmed that everything he said was true. However, he was currently too weak to prevent further bullying. He needed to become stronger, and Gobu was the only one who could help him. The girl, confused, asked what she could do to help him become stronger. Lamb felt a little embarrassed, but he said that if they made it, he would become stronger. This made the girl's face turn red. The girl looked at Lamb with suspicion, asking if he was telling the truth. She said she had never tried this before. Lanth was also a little flustered about bringing up this topic. He reassured her that everything would be fine and that he would help her if she wanted it. Without waiting for her response, Lamp gently kissed her soft lips and then laid her down on the ground. The girl, embarrassed, agreed, saying she would bear his children. Then shy sounds echoed through the air. At the same time, notifications appeared one after another, informing him that mating had raised his current level to level 7, and the sound of upgrading echoed. The increased level also increased his attributes. After a while, Lamp's body began to change, his muscles becoming more defined. He was now level 7 with 40 HP, 10 strength, 6 defense, and a total strength of 65. Lamp was surprised at the change in his body. He thought that if he continued like this, he could defeat the goblin leader. Lei9 warmly stroked Gu's head. He told her that she was his wife now, and he would protect her forever. The girl blushed and, exhausted, thanked Lambda, calling him a good person. At this moment, a cry for help caught their attention. Looking in that direction, they saw a goblin running towards them in fear, followed by a large wolf. What caught Lamb's attention was the iron ore in the goblin's hand. He didn't expect to find iron ore here, but before he could get it, he had to deal with this problem first. Lamb immediately grabbed his knife and asked Gobu to wait there for him. Gobu looked at Lamb with trust, reminding him to be careful. For Lamb, this wolf was a test of his strength. The wolf was about to catch the unfortunate goblin, who was desperately trying to escape. But Lamb suddenly appeared, wielding his sharp iron knife, and charged directly at the large wolf. The fleeing goblin was completely taken aback by this action, then filled with fear when it saw Lamb kill the wolf with one blow. In the goblin's eyes, Lamb had become a terrifying figure. When Lamb asked it to give him the iron ore, it immediately handed it over, overwhelmed with fear. Holding the iron ore in his hand, Lamb laughed with delight at the high quality of the ore. Now they needed more of this, and after they returned, he would make weapons for the goblins in the tribe. 2 days passed, and with the help of other goblins, Lamb was able to successfully create a spear with an iron blade. Although it wasn't pretty, it was a major accomplishment for Lamb and the goblins. The goblins couldn't believe that Lamb could actually create a weapon out of iron, but they wondered if it would actually work. To prove the effectiveness of the new weapon, Lamb easily plunged the spearhead into the tough skull of the number 1 crocodile wolf. As expected, the spear had easily pierced through. This demonstration astonished the other goblins. The goblin Lamb had saved before was incredibly excited, pointing at the crocodile wolf's corpse. He said he had seen Lamb kill the wolf in just a few seconds using the iron weapon, and that he really could make weapons. The other goblins agreed that the iron spear was much more powerful than the stone spears. While the goblins were discussing, Lamb held the spear high and asked them if they wanted weapons like this. Without hesitation, the other goblins shouted excitedly that they wanted one and hailed him as a god. Only one of the goblins present was not happy. The goblin leader was angry that a newcomer had stolen his respect. The leader grabbed attention by slamming the skull-headed staff in his hand onto the ground. With menacing red eyes, he admitted that Lamb wasn't lying. Creating a weapon out of iron was a miracle, but it wasn't enough for Lamb to stay in the tribe. While Lamb and the other goblins listened, the leader demanded that Lamb create 50 iron spears within 2 days. After making his demand, the leader immediately left. The other goblins didn't agree with this condition, but they didn't dare object. They felt the leader was too cruel and decided to help Lamb complete the task. Lamb wasn't surprised by the condition. He laughed confidently, feeling it was very advantageous that he had now earned the respect of the other goblins. This was a good step forward in his plan. On the day of the delivery, Lamb had completed 50 iron spears. The goblins in the tribe were also very happy that Lamb could stay in the tribe. With the same menacing look and cunning smile, the leader said he was very satisfied that Lamb had completed the task and could now stay. To celebrate Lamb joining the tribe, the leader decided to hold a feast and demanded that everyone participate. The goblins immediately started dancing and celebrating. The feast quickly took place around the bonfire. Gobu cut out a piece of pork and brought it to Lamb. This was the best part, so she wanted him to eat it. Lamb happily accepted, but after eating for a while, a sharp pain hit him. Lamb fell to the ground in agony, and Gobu was terrified. It was clear that Lamb had been poisoned. The poisoner was none other than the leader. He walked up to Lamb with an evil smile and told him he was too stupid. The leader said he knew Lam's true intentions, and those who dared challenge his authority had only one place to go: hell. Before Lam could speak, the leader grabbed Gobu's hair and pulled her towards him. The leader said he saw that Lam cared about her very much, so now he would let Lam experience the pain of watching her die in front of him. A red line of blood appeared on Gobu's neck as the leader's claws stabbed into her. The leader wanted to crush Lam's arrogance and make him suffer. In Gobu's terrified eyes, a red stream of blood spurted out, but it wasn't Gobu's blood. It was the leader's, as his arm was cut off. Lam had done it. The leader fearfully asked why he could move after being poisoned. Lam smiled and said the leader was an idiot. When facing a villain like him, he was always vigilant, and he was just pretending. But actually, Lam knew he was going to be poisoned because the system had warned him. The leader was now incredibly angry. He had no choice but to fight. He had lost an arm, so his fighting power had decreased. He used the bone chain in his hand to attack Lam. Lam also quickly attacked with his speed. Lam easily dodged the attack, jumped, and aimed his iron knife at the leader's head. The leader was killed. The goblins saw that their leader was dead and were terrified. Lam looked at them and declared that he would be their new leader. He would lead them to become a powerful goblin tribe, and they would always have meat to eat. Lam hugged Gobu and raised his knife high. He declared his supremacy over the tribe. With Lam's strength, the other goblins readily agreed to him being their leader. After all, they were simple-minded creatures who only cared about meat and mating. The reward Lam gave for their loyalty was the leader's corpse. Given permission, they immediately revealed their vicious nature, devouring the corpse in a cruel and savage way, making Lam feel disgusted. But this was the reality of life. What mattered to him now was building his tribe and nurturing the next generation of goblins to make the tribe stronger. This was just the first step on his revenge. Amidst the chaos, no one noticed one pair of eyes watching everything from afar. It was a golden-haired elf girl. As she witnessed the scene, she wondered what was happening. Under the hazy moonlight of the strange world, amidst the ominous shadows of the trees and strange-looking houses, a figure moved with incredible speed, taking just a few leaps to enter a brightly lit house. But what was truly striking was the horrifying scene below. Countless withered blue goblin corpses hung from large bones. If Linton had witnessed this, he would have been terrified. The elf girl stopped in front of a house. This was the one who had secretly watched Linton's tribe, the princess of this elf tribe, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗆𝗵𝗁. A guard elf saw her and was overjoyed to see her return. Ignoring the guard, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 immediately went inside. The guard was worried, wanting her to stop as if there was something inside she shouldn't see, but 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 didn't care. She said she had important news for her mother. Pushing the door open, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 rushed in and shouted, "Mother, I have something very important to report. There's strange activity in the goblin tribe in the eastern forest." But the scene inside left her utterly bewildered. Elves are known as a noble race with brave warriors. Yet here was a promiscuous elf, her full breasts on display in her revealing outfit, enjoying special attention from two men. 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 blushed, stammering apologies and saying she had something to do. Before she could turn away, the queen's voice rang out. She demanded 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 stop and asked what urgent matter had brought her there so hastily. 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁's eyes turned serious, and she once again mentioned the goblins in the forest. The queen didn't seem interested. She considered goblins low-level, weak, and filthy creatures. 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 quickly explained, "I found the remains of a bear in the demon forest, completely chewed up. There are signs of a struggle, many goblin footprints on the ground. The bear was likely killed by goblins from the demon forest. That giant bear is practically the strongest creature in the forest. Those goblins shouldn't be able to kill it." Her voice grew anxious. "A few days ago, I saw the goblin leader killed by a young goblin. I'm worried the bear's death is connected to that goblin." The queen was slightly surprised to hear about the new leader, but didn't seem overly concerned. What interested her was the growing number of goblins. The queen snapped her fingers, asking the man to continue serving her. She ordered 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 to lead a group to eliminate the goblins, but told her not to kill them all. Leave a few alive. This wasn't out of kindness. The queen wanted to harvest the hearts of living goblins to brew a tonic for the elf men in her tribe. Of course, 𝗧𝗃 knew the effects of this potion. Hearing this, her face flushed again. Due to 𝗧𝗃's diligence, the queen offered her a man for the night and even asked if 𝗧𝗃 had any special requests. 𝗧𝗃 was startled. This reward embarrassed her. She said she had to check on some things tonight and quickly bid farewell to her mother. Back at Linton's camp, the goblins were in a discussion. On the ground was a map of the elf tribe, painstakingly investigated by Linton's subordinates. The tribe consisted of 30 houses, all situated high up. Linton praised his subordinate, promising him 2 elf girls as a reward after defeating the tribe. He told everyone to prepare iron weapons. Hearing about the reward of 2 elf girls, the goblins were excited and eager, immediately going to prepare their weapons. Linton's expression wasn't joyful at the prospect of attacking another tribe. This was a world where strength determined survival. If he didn't build his tribe into a force, sooner or later they would be destroyed. Linton carefully analyzed the situation. There were 30 houses in the village. If each housed 2 elves, there would be a total of 60 elves, adding the 10 elves guarding the mine. The tribe would have at least 70 people. Looking back since their leader's death, Linton had led the goblins in crafting weapons and hunting monsters, leveling up their abilities. The goblins under Linton's command swept through the forest like a tidal wave, slaughtering countless monsters. These monsters, of course, were eaten, and by devouring them all, the goblins received new skills such as tusk attacks, skills that hardened their skin like stone, adding 15 points to their defense. Other skills included silent movement and venom production. Not all goblins gained skills from eating monsters, but the tribe's overall strength had improved. Some standout goblins had reached level 18 with high stats. Combined with simple iron spears and armor, they had a total strength of 250. The average strength of goblins in the tribe was now 200, but the elf tribe's collective strength was still significantly higher. This made Linton a little worried. This was a dangerous battle, and Linton wanted to prepare thoroughly. He decided to use the simulation system to find an effective attack method. Strange sounds quickly entered his perception. Looking into the distance, he discovered unusual signs. Meanwhile, the elves were rushing back to their tribe. Leading the way was 𝗧𝗃. She couldn't believe that the goblin tribe would attack hers. Initially, she brought a group to eliminate them, but arriving at the camp, she discovered the goblins had changed drastically, especially after hearing about Linton's plans. She wanted to return and report to her mother, but it seemed too late. She was discovered, and arrows flew towards the elves. Now 𝗧𝗃 lay injured on the ground, terrified. Around her were the bodies of other elves. In the distance, Linton and the other goblins were approaching with sinister smiles. They were delighted to find a live elf. 𝗧𝗃 tried to flee but couldn't get up. The wound felt strange, as if the arrow had been poisoned. Linton spoke, surprised at how easily he had captured 𝗧𝗃. He said she had arrived at the perfect time. Linton coldly ordered his subordinates to capture all the elves. 𝗧𝗃 was awakened by an unknown liquid, her soaked form revealing stunningly beautiful lines. Her dazed eyes evoked thoughts of wicked deeds. The goblins stared at her with lustful gazes, their desire for her undeniable, waiting for the opportune moment. Lambda grabbed 𝗧𝗃, acknowledging the undeniable allure of the elf's body, which sent the goblins into a frenzy. Capturing her would grant them a chance to defeat the elf queen. 𝗧𝗃 trembled. She attempted to intimidate Lambda, calling him a coward. She declared herself the princess of the elves, questioning why he dared kidnap her and threaten her people. She claimed her mother's kindness had allowed Lambda and his goblins to survive, for they would have been eradicated long ago. She warned him that if he dared touch her, the elf queen would annihilate all goblins there. Lambda only sneered at her threats. He flung 𝗧𝗃 to the ground, mocking her claims about the elf queen's kindness. The surrounding goblins echoed his laughter. He pointed to a goblin, stating that what he had heard from his subordinate contradicted 𝗧𝗃's narrative. He said his subordinates might be foolish, but they never lied. In 𝗧𝗃's terrified gaze, Lambda revealed he knew her true purpose: to annihilate all goblins in the forest. He said the elf queen wanted to keep some goblins alive not out of kindness, but for another reason, one he wouldn't bother asking her about. He declared that tonight he would lead his tribe to find out. 𝗬 commanded the goblins to feast on the dead elf and absorb their skills. The simple-minded goblins roared in delight, while 𝗧𝗏 was consumed by fear. Since his betrayal by humans, 𝗬 had become cold and cruel to his enemies. A survival tactic, it seemed. He looked at 𝗧𝗏 with an emotionless expression, announcing he would personally deal with her. 𝗧𝗏 was petrified, uttering only faint, choked sounds, followed by a scream that echoed through the forest. It seemed 𝗬 had done something truly horrifying. The system announced 𝗬 had reached level 30, gaining 50 HP, 10 strength, 10 defense, and the skills invisibility and night vision. From the Elf Queen's house came the sounds of moans of pleasure and pleas of exhaustion. Inside, the queen felt heartbroken because her evil desires were not satisfied. She felt regretful that last time, she did not catch enough goblins to make tonics for these men. 3 men lay collapsed from exhaustion around her. She suddenly remembered 𝗧𝗏 and asked if she had returned. An elf quickly informed her that 𝗧𝗏 had left on a mission and had not returned, despite being past her expected arrival time. He suggested sending a party to help 𝗧𝗏, which would also provide them with more goblins to kill and further boost the tribe's fighting abilities. The queen gave him full authority to send people to help 𝗧𝗏 and kill the goblins. A voice pierced the silence, announcing that 𝗧𝗏 wouldn't be returning today. The words sent a jolt of fear through the group, a stark realization that they were under attack. The elf man was about to draw his weapon to fight when sharp iron arrows came flying, killing the unfortunate man instantly. The elf queen, with a mix of skills and luck, managed to catch one arrow but was terrified by the sudden appearance of goblins in her home. 𝗬 and his goblins entered through the window. He announced he had captured 𝗧𝗏 and that she would soon be carrying his child. He called the elf queen his mother-in-law, declaring they were now a family. The elf queen was disgusted by those words. She was furious and wanted to know what 𝗬 had done to her daughter. 𝗬 pretended to be emotionless and acted as if he didn't understand what she was talking about. This action ignited the elf queen's anger, and she charged at him, wanting to kill him immediately. However, it seemed she was exhausted after being served by 3 men, and her attack was like a child's play to 𝗬. He informed her that the elf tribe was currently surrounded, and, if she surrendered obediently, he would consider treating them well. The elf queen collapsed to the ground, feeling her body numb. She couldn't even muster the strength to sit up. 𝗬 informed her that the arrow she had grabbed earlier had the body fluid of a goblin, which would cause rapid paralysis upon contact. The queen tried to get up in anger, her body lacking clothing and covered in sweat, becoming alluring. Seeing his prey struggling, 𝗬 felt intrigued. He said that he knew she had used the goblin's heart as a stimulant. He was surprised that the elves were so depraved and used goblins like that. He guessed that she never imagined a day like this, a day when the goblins she despised would come here for revenge. Hearing these words, the elf queen felt even more scared. She realized that the person in front of her was the strange goblin she mentioned earlier. Screams and cries for help from outside came into the room. The queen asked what was happening, and 𝗬 sneered, saying that things seemed to have started. Without giving the elf queen a chance to wait, 𝗬 dragged her to the window, allowing her to witness the scene below. He urged her to consider surrendering as soon as possible. Below, the elf village seemed to be burning. Flames were everywhere, and war was raging. Goblins were killing the elves. The elves screamed and begged the elf queen to save them, pleading not to be captured by the goblins. Seeing her elf warriors weak against the goblins' attack, the queen's worry and fear overwhelmed her, and she asked a foolish question. She asked 𝗬 what he was to her tribe. 𝗬 understood what she meant and said that the elves' strength had not weakened. The problem was that his goblin tribe had become stronger, and they had no hope of resistance. When the elves were stronger, they slaughtered the goblins. Now the goblins were stronger, and it was natural for them to slaughter the elves. 𝗬 asked her to face reality and make a quick decision to minimize the damage. 𝗬 approached the elf queen and whispered in her ear that he still needed more powerful warriors, so he would let her live. Whether the others in her tribe survived would depend on her decision. Right now, outside, the elf men were still being slaughtered, and the girls were being captured by lustful hands. a barbaric scene. The queen's arrogance collapsed, and she knelt down and begged 𝗏𝗏, promising to fulfill all his demands as long as he did not kill her child. The queen sat down and showed her superiority. The 𝗏𝗆 fruits were displayed in a revealing way. She assured him that she would bring them with her and bear children for him. In the previous episode, 𝗏𝗏 led his goblin army to attack the elf tribe, and the attack was victorious. 𝗖𝗍 is now the next morning in the goblin tribe. The sky is high with plenty of sunshine, and the scenery is incredibly beautiful. 𝗖𝗍 and the elf queen met. 𝗖𝗍 was happy to see her mother again, but she is now captured and has no hope for their future. The elf queen hugged her daughter. She apologized for underestimating the goblins. She didn't expect the goblin strength to surpass the elves like this. Currently, there are only women and children left in the goblin tribe. They no longer have the ability to defend themselves and protect the elf bloodline. Outside, the beautiful elf girls have been captured by the goblins as slaves. They cruelly use the girls as reproductive tools. This scene makes the elf queen very heartbroken. The queen realizes that they have become slaves. From now on, they can only try to survive in the goblin tribe. She asks 𝗖𝗍 not to give up hope. 𝗏𝗏 appeared next to the prison. He told the two to wait obediently to have children for him. He would provide enough food for both, but if they made trouble, he would kill both mercilessly. The elf queen is very obedient. She seems to have accepted her fate. She said she understood but had one request. Looking at the young elves who were playing with the young goblins innocently, the elf queen said they are her children. She begged 𝗏𝗏 to let her take care of those children. He is currently a goblin, but he was once a human. He understands the feeling between mother and children. He is a bit hesitant about this proposal from the queen. At the same time, the system also appears with a mission, the motherly love mission. At this time, Gobu called 𝗏𝗏. She said she couldn't take care of all the children by herself and suggested he let the queen take care of the children. 𝗏𝗏 understands that these children are the future of the goblin tribe. After they grow up, they will increase the tribe's strength. So 𝗏𝗏 agreed to the elf queen's request, this time. 𝗏𝗏 also checked his strength. He has currently met the requirements to upgrade himself. With the added stats, blood plus 20, strength plus 30, defense plus 30. 𝗏𝗏 was surprised when he met the upgrade conditions. The remaining stats were automatically converted into attribute points. 𝗏𝗏 smiled softly. He decided to continue the path of strengthening himself by mating with strong girls. His current strength can already challenge lower. After these elves give birth, he will go to lower for revenge. Quickly, another month passed in the goblin camp. There were cries of babies. The first children were born. By some miracle, the children born all have the appearance of a goblin. Their ugliness also scared their mothers, and they refused to accept the children as their own. But it's okay. Goblins are a creature with superior vitality. 𝗏𝗏 wanted to know how many children were born. Gobu calculated for a moment. She replied that there were about 30 to 40 children. The conversation was interrupted by Gon's scream, which worried 𝗏𝗏. She is pregnant with his child anyway. Quickly, 𝗏𝗏 appeared at the location of 𝗖𝗍 and the elf queen. 𝗖𝗍 is about to give birth. The elf queen is beside her, full of worry and encouragement for 𝗖𝗍, but she seems to be having some trouble seeing 𝗏𝗏. The queen quickly begged him to help 𝗖𝗍 because this is her first time giving birth, and she seems to be about to die. 𝗏𝗏 knows what is happening. He asks Gobu to help him deliver 𝗖𝗍. Looking at 𝗏𝗏's actions, the elf queen is very surprised when a goblin knows about this. But 𝗖𝗍 is angry because 𝗏𝗏 is here. She asks him to leave quickly. She doesn't want him to touch her. 𝗏𝗏 gets angry and asks 𝗖𝗍 to be silent because this is his child. After a while, 𝗏𝗏 finished the job, and 𝗖𝗍 is no longer in danger. Gobu praised 𝗏𝗏 as an extremely talented person for saving 𝗖𝗍, but 𝗏𝗏 thinks it's just a small matter. 𝗖𝗍 is currently sleeping because of exhaustion, surrounded by young goblins. But then something happened. A scream caught 𝗏𝗏's attention. In that direction, a beautiful elf who had just given birth was tied up. Beside her were two adult goblins who wanted to have children with the elf girl, not caring about her weak resistance. But their actions were paid for with their own lives. 𝗏𝗏 killed one goblin in fear of the remaining goblin because 𝗏𝗏 had ordered that all elves, after giving birth, should be given rest until they were completely healthy, and those who violated the order would pay with their lives. 𝗵 again ordered that from now on, the elf's food ration would be increased by 1 apple. These actions made the queen feel more favorably towards 𝗵. The queen said he was a very different person from ordinary goblins. 𝗵 said it was just a normal action, and the elves would be more obedient if they were treated better. Ending a busy day, 𝗵 began to carry out simulations to earn points from the system to exchange for new technologies. The current storyline is, the goblins revenge with the content you have worked hard and captured the elf tribe and have fertilized all the elves. After a period of pregnancy, the elves gave birth to children with stronger attributes than normal. Realizing that the tribe's strength had increased, you decided to take revenge on 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗵𝗁 and the others. You decided to return to the village alone and find the location of 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏 knights. Currently, there are 3 situations for 𝗵 to choose from. 1. Act alone. Try to kill 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏 and the others at 50 points. 2. Lead the goblins to attack and wipe out the entire village. Add 30 points. 3. Wait for a better opportunity and continue to observe because you think it's not time for revenge. Add 10 points. Sitting by the fire, 𝗵 continued to think. He wondered if he should find them for revenge so soon. Although 𝗵's current strength can be compared to 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏's, the strength of 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏's companions cannot be underestimated. With his current strength, 𝗵 chose option number 1. Act alone, try to kill 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏 and the others at 50 points. What happened next? 𝗵 found an opportunity when he found 𝗧𝗴𝗏𝗏 alone. He ambushed 𝗧𝗴𝗏 and almost managed to kill 𝗧𝗏𝗏. But a human knight appeared and rescued 𝗧𝗏𝗏, and 𝗵 died tragically under that person's sword. Then 𝗧𝗏𝗏's group returned to the capital and never appeared again. Immediately, the simulation process ended in a disastrous failure. Encountered the Holy Knight. No chance to escape. Rated 30 points out of 100 points. Reward multiplied by 30 life points. Simulated the Imperial City. The next time, in 9 days, 𝗵 was surprised that there was a Holy Knight in such a remote place and that 𝗧𝗏𝗏's group would leave the village and never return. So finding them for revenge is extremely difficult. Hatred has taken over 𝗵's mind. Knowing he doesn't have much time, he wants to get revenge quickly. 𝗵 decided to go to human territory. Currently, in the goblin tribe, besides him, Gobu is the most listened to by other goblins. He decided to put her in charge of the tribe for a few days. The elf queen thought this was a crazy thing to do. If 𝗵 came to human territory and was discovered by them, he would be arrested and killed. 𝗵 didn't care much. He said he had a grudge against humans and he had to get revenge. Before this decision, the elf queen offered to help 𝗵 by using invisibility magic on him, helping him not to be discovered by humans. 𝗵 chuckled. That's what he wanted. 𝗵 said he didn't expect her to care so much about his safety. The queen used magic and said she was just afraid that after 𝗵 died, the other goblins would rebel and treat the elves cruelly. Her children are all here. Only when 𝗵 returns safely will they be safe. 𝗵 only felt that the elf queen was very cunning and knew how to survive. Looking at 𝗵 leaving, Gobu shouted she would help him take care of the tribe and hoped he would return safely. The scene shifts to the town of Quangmin. The air here feels heavy with tension. Knights patrol the streets, armed and watchful, while the faces of ordinary citizens reflect their worry. These knights patrol, scanning the area as if searching for something. They don't notice a shadowy figure lurking in a dark alley. This figure is 𝗵. He silently observes from the shadows, confused by the presence of the patrol and the town's heightened defenses. He suspects the Holy Knights have something to do with this. With growing suspicion, 𝗵 leaves the deserted alley. He walks for a long time without hearing anything about 𝗧𝗴𝗏𝗏's group. This strangeness makes 𝗵's steps become more hurried. The elf's invisibility spell ensures he remains unnoticed. To find useful information, 𝗵 decides to go to the town square, where many people are gathered. He notices a group of armed individuals gathered in front of a large bulletin board. The board displays a ranking list of the knights in the town. The ranking list isn't particularly interesting. There's 1 platinum level adventurer, 2 silver level ones, and the rest are bronze level. What catches 𝗵's eye is 𝗧𝗴𝗏𝗏's name at the top of the list. This confirms that 𝗧𝗴𝗏 has grown stronger. This information is useful to 𝗵. He needs to use this time to gather more information and plan carefully. Rushing into things will inevitably lead to failure in his quest for revenge. 𝗵 quickly blends into the crowd, moving through the streets. Having been a human himself, 𝗵 knows that the best place to gather information is a tavern. To his surprise, even before entering the tavern, he hears a familiar voice. A cunning smile spreads across his face. Inside, besides 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗵𝗁 and the knights of the temple, there's also 𝗧𝗴𝗀. They're happily drinking together. One knight, raising his glass, expresses gratitude to 𝗧𝗴𝗀 and 𝗧𝗴𝗀 for saving him from a four-armed ape monster. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 says this is Captain 𝗧𝗴𝗀's victory, and she wouldn't have been able to help without his exceptional skills. Another man argues that the monster was too weak. The fact that the knight couldn't defeat it proves his weakness. This sarcastic remark enrages the knight. He tells the man that their story doesn't concern him and orders him to leave. A heated argument ensues, and they're on the verge of a fight. The tense situation is quickly diffused by the tavern owner. He reveals that the dragon on Dragon Island is currently in its breeding season. It has been kidnapping livestock and humans to eat. He suggests the two go defeat it instead of causing trouble in the tavern. These words from the tavern owner also catch 𝗵's attention. He senses a sense of worry. If the dragon attacks this town, the capital's reinforcements won't arrive in time. Even if all the adventurers in the town unite, they wouldn't be able to withstand the attack of those ferocious dragons. Disaster seems to be looming over the town. These words make the atmosphere in the tavern tense. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 breaks the silence with a laugh. Haha, a few dragons? Nothing to worry about. Let me reveal something to you all. A holy knight is on the way here. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 confidently introduces the holy knight as his teacher. Once she arrives, she will join them in defeating the dragons. The king won't need to send his army. After the situation is resolved, their group will return to the capital. This news excites the crowd. They are astonished to learn that 𝗧𝗴𝗀's teacher is a holy knight. They feel confident knowing that a holy knight will help them defeat the dragons. If this is successful, 𝗧𝗴𝗀 will become the town's hero. Flattered by the praise, 𝗧𝗴𝗀 proudly stands up and raises a toast to everyone, celebrating the holy knight's arrival and their imminent victory over the dragons. While everyone is happily drinking, 𝗵 has a different plan. He needs to make the most of this opportunity. 𝗵 stands up, pays his bill, and leaves. His departure catches 𝗧𝗴𝗀's attention. He asks why 𝗵 is leaving without joining them for drinks. 𝗵 turns his head and looks at 𝗧𝗴𝗀, saying, "We'll have plenty of opportunities to drink together in the future." Then he leaves. His actions draw the attention of 𝗧𝗴𝗀 and his men, provoking their anger. Time flies by. The people in town cheerfully celebrate the holy knight's arrival. Inside a church, a blonde-haired woman is praying. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 stands behind her. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 politely addresses her, "Master, the dragons are wreaking havoc everywhere. They're getting closer to the town now. No one dares to let their livestock out. The dragons might attack our town." The woman takes up her weapon and stands up. She is a beautiful woman with captivating blonde hair. Her silver armor gives her a commanding presence. She asks 𝗧𝗴𝗀 about the things she requested him to prepare. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 reports, "I have prepared 10 dragon hunting crossbows, and I've placed them at the highest points in the town." The woman seems pleased. She tells 𝗧𝗴𝗀 to arrange everything well. If there's a mistake, it would be a huge embarrassment. The woman walks outside. The crowd below is immediately in an uproar. It's the first time they've seen the holy knight. They praise her beauty and wonder which man could possibly win her heart. Someone who thinks she is an unattainable existence. Even the king wouldn't dare to express an opinion about her actions. The woman looks at the worried crowd. The situation is very dangerous. It's unnecessary to gather so many people here. She orders the knights to disperse the crowd, but it seems that's no longer necessary. The commotion draws the attention of the dragon. It charges at the town, terrifying everyone. One unlucky person is taken by the dragon. The woman anxiously announces, "This is just a scout dragon. Once it appears, more dragons will surely attack here. 𝗧𝗴𝗀, take your men to the wall and prepare to fight." Outside the town, on a cliff, a goblin scurries along. He informs his leader that the dragons are coming. From what he observed, there are many guards on the wall. The goblin asks what he should do next. The leader tells him to be silent and wait. It's not time to act yet. This leader is 𝗧. He has brought his army here. He's waiting for the dragons to inflict damage upon the town. Then it'll be his chance to seek revenge.
Disaster struck quickly. The entire sky of the town was covered by vicious dragons. Their number was uncountable. Those who were accustomed to bullying the weak, like 𝗧𝗴𝗀 and lower, were terrified when they saw the number of these fearsome creatures. Unable to escape, they could only stand there and watch what was happening. The only calm person now was the blonde knight and the soldiers who were trying to defend. After using a crossbow to kill a dragon, the knight looked at the soldiers. She asked them if they understood how to use the dragon-slaying crossbow. Use it and destroy those dragons. They had great faith in the power of the knight from the capital, believing that she would help them win. They quickly put arrows into the large crossbows and aimed at the dragons to attack. Quickly, many arrows were shot and a few dragons were killed, but it seemed that these losses meant nothing compared to the immense number of dragons. The human attack was effective, but it only made the dragons more frenzied, and they realized their chances of winning were slim. Right now, the sky was covered by dragons. The ground was becoming dark. They realized something was coming immediately. The roar of the dragons made the soldiers' ears hurt so much that they had to kneel on the ground quickly. 𝗧 and 𝗧𝗴𝗀 realized that what was coming was the dragon mother, the leader of these dragons. Appearing in the sky of the town, the dragon mother's size was many times larger than the other dragons. It frightened the soldiers. They tried to use crossbows to attack the dragon, but they knew that with the dragon mother's huge size, these arrows could not pierce its scales. The dragon mother looked at the people on the wall with angry eyes because these tiny creatures had dared to kill her children. The dragon roared, then gathered a fireball. This was its dragon fire skill. After preparing, the dragon used its skill to attack the wall. Seeing the huge fireball heading towards them, the soldiers could only run away in fear. They thought that the town would be destroyed by this attack. The blonde girl asked the soldiers not to panic. She asked them to let her handle the dragon. At this time, she slammed her sword to the ground. From there, a blue magic circle appeared, then slowly spread around. That magic circle quickly created a protective barrier around the town. This barrier was so strong that it blocked the dragon mother's attack and trapped the dragon outside. Standing far enough away, 𝗧𝗴𝗵 could see the whole battle. He was surprised that the villagers could actually withstand the attack of a powerful monster like the dragon mother. Perhaps the good thing for 𝗧𝗵 at the moment was that the dragon mother was not injured and it could continue the fight. 𝗧𝗵𝗵 quickly used his skills to observe the power information of the dragon. This was a monster named Dragon Mother, level 79, race Ancient Dragon, with the title Dragon Island King, HP 4100, Strength 510, Defense 580, Skills Dragon Fire, Long Transformation, Dragon Roar, Ancient Call, with overall power 2900. This was the strongest monster that 𝗧𝗵 had ever seen. When observing the power information of the blonde woman, 𝗧𝗵 became more worried because she seemed more like a monster than a dragon. Her name was 𝗧𝗴𝗀, level 80, with the profession Sword Master, title Holy Sword, Strongest Swordsman. Dragon Slaying Hero, Top Human Heavenly Swordsman, HP 1700, Strength 690, Defense 700, Skills Sword Chi, Man and Sword Fusion, Iron Wind, Light Tin Wei, 2 kilometers Cho, and Sin, and many other skills, and she had an overall power of 4,000. Seeing 𝗧𝗴𝗀 charging towards the dragon mother to attack, 𝗧𝗴𝗻 felt frightened. He realized that her power was too abnormal and felt happy that the one facing her was not him. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. The battle of 𝗧𝗴𝗀 and the dragon mother was terrifying, but it seemed that the dragon mother was a little weaker than 𝗧𝗴𝗀. But with a large amount of blood, he believed that the dragon mother could help him by some time. Seeing the dragon mother and 𝗧𝗴𝗀 had moved far away from the town, 𝗧𝗴𝗻 thought that this was a good opportunity for him to attack. This was a chance for him to take revenge. He ordered his goblins, telling them to act according to the plan. They would enter the city and be divided into 2 teams. One team was responsible for causing chaos. The other team would hide and wait for a chance to attack. The goblins, with their extremely scary, greedy eyes, obeyed 𝗧𝗵𝗻's orders and entered the town. The town was in chaos, Fires raged everywhere, and dragons still circled the sky, searching for prey to attack. 𝗧𝗴𝗏 was wounded after trying to kill a few dragons. He felt they were difficult to deal with, but they were just monsters after all. How could they defeat a brave man like him? His confidence was shattered, however, when the townspeople started screaming, announcing that goblins were attacking the town. The soldiers couldn't believe it. They thought the goblins weren't stupid enough to attack a human town. Goblins were just weak creatures in their eyes, but they were currently fighting dragons, and they didn't have time to deal with goblins. Then a woman's scream quickly erased any doubt. She was running in terror, a horde of goblins at her heels. The sight of the disgusting goblins enraged 𝗧𝗏𝗏. He ordered the others to keep the dragons occupied, since there weren't many left. He and 𝗧𝗏𝗏 would go deal with the invading goblins. This was exactly what 𝗏𝗏𝗏 wanted. It seemed while chasing after the goblins, 𝗏𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 stumbled into an ambush 𝗏𝗏 had set up. With the prey trapped, a goblin ordered his comrades to attack. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 was quickly captured by a net and cried out to 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 in fear, but he couldn't help her. He was lying on the ground, riddled with arrows, surrounded by goblins. He wondered how there could be so many. The other soldiers saw this and immediately ran towards 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 to help, but it seemed they couldn't get any closer, surrounded by goblins. What was even more frightening was that 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 had appeared behind two of the soldiers, drawn by the other goblins who hadn't noticed him. It was too late when 𝗏𝗏𝗏 warned them to be careful. Behind them, the two soldiers were quickly killed by 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Seeing this, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 were terrified. More terrified than when they had seen the dragons because they knew there was no one left to save them. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 now approached 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏, expressing surprise that he could capture them so easily. 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 roared in anger, saying he would kill 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and all the goblins. But 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 quickly used a kick to remind 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 of his position. He was prey, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was the hunter. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 ordered the goblins to take 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗧𝗏𝗏 out of the town through the sewer, while the other goblins followed him to the wall to kill the other soldiers. 𝗏𝗏𝗏's plan was carried out quickly. The town was filled with screams of people being attacked by goblins. This drew 𝗖𝗍𝗽𝗍𝗏's attention, and she couldn't understand what was happening. Why would goblins dare to attack at this time? But 𝗖𝗍𝗽𝗍𝗏's distraction came at a cost. The dragon mother had transformed her dragon body into a seductive and terrifying girl, who told 𝗖𝗍𝗽𝗍𝗏 she should focus, and she didn't have time to worry about others. After transforming into a half-human, half-dragon form, the dragon mother was able to move with more agility thanks to her reduced size. She charged towards 𝗖𝗍𝗽𝗍𝗏, aiming a massive fist at her. 𝗖𝗍𝗽𝗏, however, scoffed at the attack, calmly standing her ground as the dragon mother charged. "How much more punishment can you take?" 𝗖𝗍𝗽𝗏 sneered, unleashing a powerful advanced skill. With 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏's might, the dragon mother couldn't dodge and had to endure the excruciating pain. 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏 reveled in the dragon mother's howls of agony, but her delight was short-lived. Although the dragon mother seemed defeated, she was now worried about 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 and if he could handle the remaining dragons and goblins. Her question was quickly answered with a resounding explosion, confirming that 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 was struggling to handle the chaos. The wounded dragon mother saw the goblins appearing at that moment as an opportunity. She used 𝗖𝗍𝗽𝗍𝗏's momentary distraction to her advantage, transforming back into her full dragon form and escaping before 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏 could react. As she fled, the dragon mother vowed to return and exact revenge on 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏 after recovering from her injuries. 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏 was enraged, but she couldn't chase after the dragon mother because she had to protect the villagers. She swore to find Dragon Island and wipe out every dragon there. Later, peace had returned to the town. 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏 had dealt with the remaining dragons and goblins, but she was furious at the incompetence of 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and his group. They couldn't even defeat the goblins. As 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏 entered the town center, a knight informed her that 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 had been captured by goblins. 𝗖𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏 was stunned. She couldn't believe it. Everyone on the continent knew that goblins were the weakest of creatures. 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 She was informed that these goblins were very unusual. Their strength was comparable to that of a large monster, and even Rotor couldn't overcome them. Hearing this, 𝗖cie exploded in anger. She declared that she would wipe out every goblin tribe in the nearby forest as revenge, but a villager stopped her, pleading with her to stay and protect the town. They feared that the dragons and goblins would return and leave them defenseless. The villagers around them knelt down begging 𝗖cie to remain. They were the people of the temple and the empire, and they looked to her for protection. Despite her rage, 𝗖cie understood that the lives of these villagers were more important than the captured knight. Her duty was to protect them. She blamed 𝗏r for his weakness, for not even being able to defeat goblins. The only thing she could do was to send a message to the capital, requesting assistance. Meanwhile, 𝗵𝗺 had returned to his tribe, greeted with cheers and celebration for his victory. He had also brought back 2 humans, 𝗏r and 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏, as trophies. Upon arrival at the camp, the goblins placed 𝗏r and 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏 under guard at the base of a large tree. They were warned to be good, or they would be eaten. As 𝗏r surveyed the scene, he was surprised to see that the goblin tribe was keeping many elves captive. This explained their unusual strength. 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏 was worried. She thought that there were goblins in this tribe with hero-level strength. 𝗏r understood the severity of their situation. He asked 𝗧𝗴𝗏 if her powers had returned, and she gave him good news. With her current rate of recovery, she would soon be able to use magic again. However, their conversation was overheard by 𝗵𝗺, who commended 𝗧𝗴𝗏 on her impressive healing speed. 𝗧𝗴𝗏 was startled by 𝗵𝗺's appearance, particularly because he knew her name. Before she could fully recover from her shock, 𝗵𝗺 seized her by the foot. 𝗧𝗴𝗏 asked, "What are you going to do?" 𝗵𝗺 answered with a chilling smile, then used his claws to dig deep into 𝗵𝗺's flesh, causing her to cry out in pain. 𝗏r, witnessing this, shouted in anger. He called 𝗵𝗺 a monster and demanded that he stop. Before the commotion could escalate further, a goblin intervened with a powerful punch, enraged that 𝗏r had dared to insult their leader. 𝗏r refrained from further insults. He glared at 𝗵𝗺 and questioned if he was an intelligent goblin and whether he considered the consequences of kidnapping them. 𝗏r informed him that his master was a sword saint capable of wiping out the entire tribe. 𝗵𝗺 smirked, stating that the woman was also his prey, but the time wasn't right. Before departing, he ordered the goblins to erase all traces of their presence. The woman wanted to find, but could not find. Wiping the blood from his hands, 𝗵𝗺 instructed a goblin to lead all the second-generation goblins into the forest to hunt as many monsters as they could. The goblin promptly obeyed. 𝗵𝗺 knew that this event was significant and that the humans wouldn't let it go. His immediate concern was to evolve his tribe before the humans attacked. Setting that aside, it was time for revenge. 𝗵𝗺 stepped on 𝗏r, demanding that he answer his questions honestly. If he lied, 𝗵𝗺 would cut off a part of his body. 𝗵𝗺's first question was, "You humans enjoy secretly imprisoning and torturing goblins, don't you?" 𝗏r was taken aback. Although it was true, he feigned ignorance. His deception came at a price. 𝗵𝗺, without mercy, cut off one of 𝗏r's ears. 𝗏r writhed on the ground in agony, continuing to curse at 𝗵𝗺. He insisted that everything he did was for the protection of humans. His duty was to eliminate monsters. 𝗵𝗺 found this lie repulsive. He believed that 𝗏r was motivated by the desire to elevate the status of his knightly order. 𝗵𝗺 knew that they chose to kill monsters, including those humans who were captured by monsters, because killing was easier than saving. To fulfill their duty, they had killed countless people. They were more monstrous than the monsters themselves. These words shocked 𝗏r and 𝗧𝗴𝗏. They didn't understand how the goblin knew this, but 𝗵𝗺 ended the conversation. He stated that he wasn't like them. He didn't need to prove he was good because he was inherently a cruel monster, and now he would use his role as a cruel monster to teach a lesson. 𝗧𝗏𝗏 had been paralyzed by the goblin's poison, her consciousness fading. She would be 𝗵𝗺's target for revenge. 𝗏r knew what was coming. Despite being beaten by the goblins, he struggled and cried out, begging 𝗵𝗺 not to harm 𝗧𝗴𝗏. But 𝗵𝗺 had no mercy for his enemies. He said that he would make 𝗧𝗴𝗏 suffer for all the pain he endured, and this was just the beginning. He grabbed 𝗧𝗴𝗏 and told 𝗏r to open his eyes and enjoy the show. His goblins would serve 𝗧𝗏𝗏 with all their heart. 𝗏r was horrified at the prospect of her being defiled by their dirty hands. It's the second day since 𝗏r and 𝗧𝗏𝗏 were captured and brought to the goblin tribe. The sun is high in the sky, and the goblin guards are changing shifts. A goblin exits the tent looking satisfied after torturing 𝗧𝗏𝗏. Another goblin watches him with worry, reminding him that the chieftain has ordered 𝗧𝗏𝗏 not to be killed. The happy goblin replies that she's still very much alive. 𝗧𝗏𝗏's clothes are now in tatters. She is no longer screaming as she was when first tortured, but her silence is even more terrifying. 𝗧𝗴𝗀𝗏 is forced to witness everything. He looks at 𝗖𝗏𝗏 with worry, urging her to stay strong and not give up, assuring her they'll be rescued soon. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 just whispers that she understands, but 𝗧𝗴𝗀 is quickly beaten by another goblin for talking when he shouldn't. Another goblin approaches to torture 𝗧𝗴𝗀 inside the tent. The elf queen and 𝗖𝗀 are tending to the children and witnessing everything. Seeing 𝗖𝗏𝗏 being tortured, the elf queen concludes that 𝗬𝗏 has a vendetta against humans. 𝗖𝗀 feels scared and thinks they are worse off than the two humans. At least they have fruit to eat. It seems like both the elf queen and 𝗖𝗀 are pregnant with 𝗬𝗏's children. Gobu arrives at that moment. She confirms that 𝗬𝗏 does have a vendetta against humans, and these two are the ones who are responsible. The elf queen, seemingly having changed her mind about 𝗬𝗏, claims he is the most unique goblin she's ever seen. A goblin driven by revenge, capable of anything. Even while he tortured her with his weapon, she felt a peculiar fondness for him. The elf queen has shattered the image of the noble elf in 𝗖𝗀's eyes. 𝗖𝗀, standing beside her, seems to feel her mother is happy about being tortured by 𝗬𝗏. Back to 𝗬𝗏, the goblin rushes in to inform him that the second-generation goblins have returned. This surprises 𝗬𝗏. The second-generation goblins return with their loot, various monsters, and are greeted with enthusiastic cheers by the other goblins. After all, besides reproduction, their main interest is meat. Upon seeing 𝗬𝗏, the goblin immediately greets him. He's a large goblin, level 33, with the profession of warrior. He has the title Son of Elf, blessed by the Lord and Monster Hunter. With 470 HP, 142 strength, 168 defense, and numerous skills, his overall power reaches 500. 𝗬𝗏 is pleased with these second-generation goblins. They have evolved into large goblins after surpassing level 30, and their strength is catching up to 𝗬𝗏's. 𝗬𝗏 asks why they returned so early and if the hunt was successful. The goblin reports that they had hunted all the nearby monsters and had to venture further west into the forest. But they encountered a giant goblin tribe that was slaughtering smaller goblin tribes. This surprises 𝗬𝗏. It's the first time he's heard of the giant goblin race. He only knew of the demi-humans as the creatures closest to goblins in size. Another goblin informs 𝗬𝗏 about this tribe. They are the Bloodtooth tribe. They are all giant goblins. In a previous hunt, he had discovered a tribe being attacked by these giant goblins, and the scene was terrifying. Thinking about these large goblins, 𝗬𝗏 doesn't feel worried, but excited. If he could capture their chieftain and create a third generation of goblins, they would have enough power to resist the human invasion. 𝗧𝗴𝗀, hearing 𝗬𝗏's words, laughs mockingly. He tells 𝗬𝗏 to keep dreaming. His death is approaching. He says even if goblins become strong, knights will defeat them. 𝗬𝗏 stares at 𝗧𝗴𝗀 with a terrifying glare. He thanks him for the reminder, saying he had forgotten 𝗧𝗴𝗀 was there. As a reward, 𝗬𝗏 allows the other goblins to play with 𝗧𝗴𝗀, instructing them not to kill him. The goblins pounce on 𝗧𝗴𝗀 with a ravenous appetite. It seems they find humans strangely alluring, even men. While the goblins enjoy themselves, 𝗧𝗴𝗀 screams in desperation. He curses the goblins and threatens them, saying humans will come and destroy their wretched tribe. 𝗧𝗴𝗀 remains silent, her head down as she watches everything unfold. Perhaps she has learned to stay quiet. Hours later, 𝗧𝗴𝗀 lies unconscious on the ground. His face reveals the pain he has endured. Meanwhile, the goblin tribe is having a feast with alcohol and meat. It seems everyone is happy except for 𝗧𝗴𝗀 and 𝗧𝗴𝗀. Gobu asks 𝗬𝗏 about his plans to attack the Bloodtooth tribe. 𝗬𝗏 confirms it. He says they want to survive, so they need to be the strongest. He wants to not only attack the tribe, but also capture their chieftain. 𝗬𝗏 has decided on a name for his tribe. From now on, they will be called the Tribe of Frenzy. The name seems to fit the goblins' character. They roar with joy at having a formal name. Gobu feels apprehensive about 𝗬𝗏's decision. She warns him that the Bloodtooth goblins are very strong and have destroyed many other tribes. It will be very difficult to attack them and capture their chieftain. 𝗬𝗏 tells Gobu not to worry, saying he knows their current strength very well. 𝗬𝗏 looks at 𝗖𝗏𝗀 as if he has an idea about using her in the war. Before the battle begins, 𝗬𝗏 visits the Bloodtooth tribe to gather information. He chooses a suitable location to observe the entire area and is curious about the strength of these giant goblins. The Bloodtooth tribe has houses with modern architecture, showing that these goblins are intelligent. Inside, many giant goblins are eating and drinking, but 𝗵 thinks he can easily defeat them. 𝗵 notices the fear in the eyes of the goblins inside the house. They are scared when they see their chieftain. It's a giant goblin, much larger than the others. The goblin is level 50 with the profession of high-level warrior. He has the titles Monster Hunter, Goblin Hero, and Breeding Machine, with 700 HP, 239 strength, and 140 defense. He's equipped with a bone hammer, and his overall power reaches 900. 𝗵 is thrilled to see such a strong goblin and already has a plan for him in the future.